Consider an object moving along a line with a given velocity v. Assume t is time measured in seconds and velocities have units of meters per second. Determine when the motion is in the positive direction and when it's in the negative direction. Find the displacement over the given interval, and then find the distance traveled over the given interval. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is graph this function. Now, this is pretty easily graphed in a graphing calculator, but the main idea is we want to know when this parabola is above the x-axis or t-axis and below the x or t-axis. Okay, so let's factor this thing first. So we could factor out a 4. That will give us t squared minus 10t plus 16. And then we could factor this thing to see where the function is 0. So two things that multiply to get 16 but add to get 10, that would be negative 2, negative 8. So equals 4 times t minus 2 and t minus 8. Okay, so that's going to give us times of 0 of 2 and 8. That's when this function is going to cross the t-axis, which at that point the velocity is 0. Okay, so this is a positive parabola. It crosses at 2 and 8. So it's going to look basically like this. It's going to cross here at 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so right here and right here. So it's going to do something like this. Okay, so you can see that part of it's above the t-axis, part of it's below the t-axis. So this section of the graphs that's above the t-axis, that's when the direction's positive. And this section down here that's below the t-axis, that's when the direction is negative. Okay, so also notice your interval is from 0 to 9. It includes the endpoints. Okay, so let's go ahead and write down the positive direction. Positive direction is going to be from 0, because that's where our interval starts, to 2. Okay, 0 to 2. Now we're going to include that 0 endpoint by using a bracket. We're not going to include the 2, because looking at the graph, the velocity isn't positive or negative at 2, it's 0. Okay, so we won't include that. And we've got another section here, over here. Now we go, this is 8. 9 is where the interval ends, so it's also positive from 8 to 9. 9, we will include that endpoint. 8, we won't include for the same reason we didn't include the 2. Negative. Okay, where is the thing negative? Well, it's negative in between 2 and 8. And for the same reasons earlier that we didn't include 2 and 8, we're not going to include them here. Okay, so that's your answer to A. It's moving in the positive direction from 0 to 2 and 8 to 9, and negative from 2 to 8. It's 0 at 2 and 8. Okay. B, find the displacement over the given interval. Okay, to find the displacement, we simply take the interval of this thing. We don't have to worry about where it's above the x or t-axis or below. We just take the integral. Okay, so we're going to take the integral from 0 to 9 of 4 times t squared minus 10t plus 16 dt, so with respect to t, and that's going to turn into, let's factor out the 4, t cubed over 3 minus 5t squared plus 16t from 0 to 9. Okay, let's go ahead and evaluate this integral. 0, you can see there's a t, and a t, so the 0 is going to just be 0. So all we really have to do is plug in the 9, because when we plug in the 0, everything zeroes out. So that's going to be, let's see, 4 times 9 cubed over 3 minus 5 times 9 squared plus 16 times 9, and that's going to end up being, well, let's see, let's go ahead and type it in our calculator. So a little shortcut when we do this, and I know you guys are looking for shortcuts. Notice that I've typed in my calculator. Let me move this over so you can see. Okay, so I had to use x's, but it's still the function that we have here. Well, the result of the integral that we have here. I typed it in here. Okay, so we can, first of all, you can hit second and window. and go down here to independent. It'll probably say auto. Move it over to ask and hit enter. And then hit second graph and it'll bring up a table of values. Okay, so you can see your values. Now sometimes you're going to have decimals, so sometimes that's not as helpful, although we can see that this is 58 and 2/3, and this is negative 85 and 1/3, so not too bad on those values here. Another way to do that, hit second quit and go to vars, move over to y-vars and hit enter on function. We typed that function in on y1, so hit y1 and open a parentheses and type in whatever you want to plug in as the x value, or in our case the t value, and hit enter. So you can see is when we plug that in, we get 0. When I plug in a 0, we knew that already. Hit second enter to retype that function without having to go through the process. Again, type in a 2. Again, we get the decimal. So hit math and then 1 and then enter. And it'll give us the fraction 176/3, which is the answer to this, 176/3. Since we're in calculus, we can find some shortcuts to take out the arithmetic that bogs us down sometimes. Okay, so the displacement of the given interval was 176 over, oh, actually, no, we were going to 9. Sorry. Let's back up. We'll come back to that later, but we want the 9, not a 2. So let's hit second enter. Let's hit it again. Okay, let's not plug in a 2, let's plug in a 9. So let's undo this. It's not 176/3, it's actually negative 72. Negative 72 is the displacement from 0 to 9. I found it from 0 to 2 incorrectly a second ago. That's the correct answer, negative 72. Okay, let's move on. C, find the distance traveled over the given interval. Now, for distance traveled, you have to pay attention where the integral, or where the graph is above the t-axis and below, and you have to split it up. You're going to have to split up this section of it, and then the middle section, and then this final section, okay? So we would go from 0 to 2, and then from 2 to 8, and then from 8 to 9. And since this is below the t-axis, we would put a negative sign in front because we're going to get a negative answer, and distance can't be negative. So we would change it to positive by putting a negative in front. Okay, so we still have the integral. We're going to integrate from 0 to 2 this time of 4t squared minus 10t plus 16 dt. We're going to do it again, but we're going to minus, and we're going to do from 2 to 8, and I'll just say v of t. This is all v of t here. Okay, and then dt, and then plus the integral from 8 to 9 of v of t dt. Okay, we already know the answer. We did it in the previous problem. It's this stuff right here. Okay, and we've already typed it in. Hopefully you've already typed it in your calculator in y equals like we did earlier. So we're going to save a lot of time here. So we're going to get our answer, which is, again, 4 times t cubed over 3 minus 5t squared plus 16t, and we're going to integrate that in 3 different times, or we're going to plug in our limits 3 different times from 0 to 2, and then same thing from 2 to 8. Oh, that's a minus that because it's below the t-axis, so we're doing minus to fix it, and then plus the same thing from 8 to 9, and that's when we can really use our calculator to shorten this problem up a little bit. So we've got it typed in. Again, it is vars, y-vars, enter on function, and enter on the first one. Okay, so we will type in a first a 2. We did that earlier by mistake. Math, enter will give us 176/3. And then, of course, we typed in the 0 earlier. We know it's 0, but I'll do it again here. Okay, so this part right here is going to be 176/3. Our next portion of the graph is from 2 to 8, so let's do the 8. 85.33, that's negative. So it's negative 256/3, and then we already have the one where it was 2. I'll do it again just in case. Okay, so we'll do negative 256/3 minus minus answer. Second answer. Okay, so that's 144. So this middle one is going to be minus a negative 144. Minus from here, the answer was negative. Okay, and finally, the last one to do was the 9. So, and here's something else you can do. You can use vars. Whoops. Vars, y vars, enter. Do the 9 minus, do vars, y vars, enter, and then do the 8, and it will actually do the work for you, plug in the limits for you. Math enter to do that, and you get plus 40 over 3. All right, quickly here you will do all these together. So 176 over 3, and we'll do plus 144 because the negatives cancel, and then plus 40 over 3 equals 216. Okay, and that is your distance traveled over that given interval.